Good evening, Galion. This is Mayor Tom O'Leary coming to you from City Hall on Veterans Day, or at least the legal holiday Veterans Day. Had an opportunity last night to represent the city at a Hall of Fame function for Veterans Hall of Fame, and it was an alumni of former Bucyrus mayors, so it was fun to see some people I hadn't seen for a while, visit with a couple of former mayors, and be part of recognizing some people in some cases who had lost their lives in various conflicts. So for those of us who are benefit from the fact that these people gave their lives in many cases, it's great to be an American and exercise this kind of 21st century way of communicating. As far as the city goes, tomorrow night the main order of business is the first discussion, if you will, of the new 2019 budget. I believe that what you'll see tomorrow night is introduction of that budget, a handful of questions from various council members, and holding that to a first reading. If I had to venture a guess, I would guess that we're probably going to pass that budget, or council will pass the budget rather, at the second meeting in November, perhaps at the very latest in the first meeting in December. So really on schedule, if not ahead of schedule, and the only missing number that's of importance and significance is we'll hear next Monday on the 19th, I believe it is, we're going to hear from the insurance carriers, and we'll see how we did in terms of quoting or bidding out our health insurance coverage for the city. So that's a significant expense, and a few percent increase one side or another will have a major impact on the budget and the assumptions that went into that. So tomorrow, if people are out and they want to get a feel for what the budget will be like for 19, any changes that they could anticipate, tomorrow at council meeting be a good opportunity or a good time to listen in and get your copy of the budget to study over the next few weeks. Mostly in terms of what's in the budget, one of the things that's worth noting is this is only an annual budget. It's an appropriation that what we on City Council and in the City Administration have become used to is preparing a recovery plan, which required balancing of all the key accounts over a 5-year basis. So what we'll introduce tomorrow is simply a 1-year budget for 19, but the budget was prepared looking at the next 3 years and making sure that we were trending in the right way, or making adjustments to keep our fund balances where we'd like to see them on the next 3-year basis. So it's been really in the mayor's office one of the biggest source of activity over the past few weeks, and so we're anxious to see that get in front of council and move ahead over the next few meetings to shape it up and get it passed eventually. One of the interesting but small matters within the budget that we're talking about a little bit before we went on air tonight is the amount, the increase and the amount of increase in activity, increase in revenue, and the amount of increased activity at the city's various shelters and pavilions. We've nearly doubled the amount of money that we generate out of the East Park Cabin, the Railroad Pavilion, and as the summer went on, this first year, the Amons Pavilion was rented out, and we've got some feedback, from we really love these various facilities to why don't you improve this or that or another thing, and so we're working on the improvement of those different facilities. One of the big improvements that you'll see early next year, and probably see the bidding go on either late this year or again early next year, is a permanent bathroom at the Railroad Pavilion. We've been patiently waiting this year to get a set of plans approved, and in the past few weeks we've decided to go with a similar design that we've used at the other parks in town and the improvements we've made. We found that has pre-approval of state plans and really allows the project to move ahead. We've been frustrated here at City Hall over the past several months trying to get that railroad pavilion, restroom in place, and really add to the value. No one is very happy about needing to use a porta pot over there, and it'll be a big day at City Hall when we can pick up the porta pot and have it hauled off site. So those are some of the things I think are worth mentioning, or one of the things that's worth mentioning. It's been a little bit different in the budget. And while the income increase that we're seeing in those rentals certainly doesn't pay an immediate return on investment in the cost of those facilities, what we found is the number of weeks and weekends that those facilities have been rented have increased, and we're happy to see that. And when you think about it, we really don't have a private facility that can provide those kinds of venues for people that want to bring 50 or 60, 70 people together. So this has worked real well, and for the most part, it's been another example of a real productive community-wide benefit to the use of freeze funds. So those are some things that were in the budget, and there will certainly many other things in a budget the size of the city budget that are worth noting, and those will come out over the next few weeks. So I'll stop there, see if we have any questions, and if we don't, then I'll drone on with more budget stuff. That'll get them excited.
No questions at this time, Mayor.
All right, well, I would say with a couple of other things that you'll see that we're going to need to take care of in this past year that are going to be included in the budget are dollars to improve the intersection at Brant Road and 598. We hope to have over the next few weeks the results of the traffic study that we'll need to justify or warrant that improvement. I've had my own recent experiences out there at 598 and Brant Road, and in terms of trying to make decisions and having quite a bit of traffic out there. So we'll be working on that this next year. I'm well aware of a pothole. It actually happens to be at one of the quadrants of the intersection that's not in the city, but I think when we get back to work tomorrow, we'll get somebody out there and fill in a couple of potholes on what's the northeast quadrant. As you're turning north on Brant Road onto 598, there's a couple large mud puddles. We need to get that shaped up before we get into winter. So, well aware of that. I also think that you'll see some lighting improvements out there. Those people who have talked to me about the darkness of that intersection in the evening, I think, are absolutely right, and we'll be working on installation of a overhead street light there to provide better illumination there at that intersection. So that's a major public works improvement that we'll see in the second half of this year. Two more things I'd want to mention that are things that are below ground, so most citizens don't see them going on except during construction, is we were successful in our bidding strategy in that we let one project, and we hope to have another one sold here in the next couple of weeks, that involves stormwater projects. And stormwater in the most recent case, and then next week or the week after, we hope to sell a sanitary sewer project out on Charles Street. But what we found is when we sell these projects later in the year, we have many more bidders, and we have some people who are aggressive bidders, either looking for work to work on over the winter or something to start up their business plan for the next year. So in any case, we hope to have a contract to award here in the next few days with a low bidder on a project that will address some of the worst stormwater issues out in the Wood Street, Pierce, Riblet, that area, which I think is generally understood as is between Dawson Avenue and the Covert Complex. So that area with chronic flooding, we hope to relieve that, and that project will connect into some of the projects that we've completed over the last couple of years. So.
And we do have our first question for the night. This one comes from Dee. She asks, will Hydes Park Lane ever be extended over to Highland?
Well, that's a good question. I think that has to do with the decision of the new property owner to the south out there. I think, as many people know, and I discussed a few weeks ago, that there are new owners that successfully bid on an auction first part of October. And one of the major investors in that property, I think, has expressed an interest in doing some residential units over there on Hesby, or what would be the westward extension of Highland. So we've yet to see a site plan, and with the new bus garage going in that general vicinity, I know there's some neighborhood concerns about extending Heist Park over to Highland, but I guess if I had to say, if that property is developed for residential, it's likely that you'll see that extended.
Okay, and that was our only question so far. If anybody has anything they'd like to know about or any topics, please
Well,
send them
while
in.
I'm digging a hole with the people who live out there in the Highland area, I would want to mention that we don't have any immediate plans to do that, and the city is not going to initiate that. But if the property owner is developing a subdivision back there, it certainly would make sense for the city, with what I consider a pretty great need for new housing in the community, to make that maybe one of the first areas that is developed for new housing in the community. There's quite a case to be made for providing some housing nearby the school complex. I've met people either in public or knocking on doors in various situations where I've met school teachers who expressed to me the desire to have more housing, and how they worked here in Galion for a few years before they could find a nice apartment. So we're very mindful of the need to have a range of housing, whether it's single-family housing or perhaps more condos like we have down at Aspen Terrace, or certainly the idea of some multi-unit rental properties that would be more of a townhouse apartment or a freestanding apartment. Those ideas, I think, are real good ones, and we hope to do what we can from City Hall to make those happen.
Okay, jumping back to traffic and roads, Jeremiah asks, are there any plans for a traffic study at the intersection of State Route 19 and Biddle Road?
I'd have to say to Jeremiah, just with a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, outside our jurisdiction. So there should be, but that intersection is really outside city limits. It's more of a Polk Township ODOT project in terms of a traffic signal or any kind of improvements out there. And on the general issue, this is an issue about traffic signal. I'll just jump into the related issue. We've got enough going on at City Hall over the next 2 or 3 years to not be looking at launching an aggressive annexation program or try to grow the city physically, although there's a case to be made that some of those housing developments and some of those streets might benefit from coming into the city. We're probably not heading west with any major annexation plan. If people, property owners, want to annex into the city, we're certainly going to work with them, but we're not going to lead an attack on Polk Township and try to grow out in that direction. But Biddle and 19 is Polk Township in the Ohio Department of Transportation.
Thanks, Mayor. Since we have no other questions for right now, there are a couple community events coming up later this year. Maybe discuss those while we're waiting on more.
I think, yes, that's exactly right. And we'll be on again to talk about council and what's happened over the next couple of weeks, But the first weekend of December, there is the now becoming annual event of Come Home to Galion. They made a couple of the planners of that that activity made a couple of nice improvements last year, and from what I understand, they're going to continue this year. Those that I remember being the best family activities in terms of small children in the community were the breakfast with Santa in the morning. From what I understand about that activity, it'll be at the pavilion, again at the Big Four Pavilion. and instead of 2 sessions, they're going to have 3 breakfast sessions. Those people who were here last year, it got pretty crowded. So what they've done is add another session and reduce the number of meals that they're going to serve from 75 in 2 sessions to 50 in 3 sessions. I think for the families and the kids, it'll improve that activity and still have that opportunity to have your picture taken with Santa and breakfast, and all for a nominal price. And the little bit of income that's generated goes to the ongoing redevelopment of the depot. And then in the afternoon, I believe through Gary Frankhouse's efforts, but for a second year in a row, I believe Gary's been able to get a Polar Express trolley up from the Columbus area, and so they will once again be running rides with kids from the theater up to the depot, a little bit of refreshments at the depot, but just a fun thing for kids to experience and enjoy the movie The Polar Express down at the theater. Another example of, from my perspective, from my opinion, for what it's worth, how the community theater is really expanding their role in the community, and it's great to see them continue to do the performances like they have going on last weekend and this weekend, but also to get involved in these activities that involve people of all ages. So that's neat to see. That's coming up first weekend in December, and we have, Matt, help me, is it the 16th? Turkey give out?
Yes, Friday the 16th.
Yeah, there's something that we're trying to provide some information, and we expect to be inundated with families. But the city was offered by, of all entities, a firm that helps us with our workers' comp cost, and they made an offer to us to provide 100 frozen chickens. Chickens? What the heck's wrong with me? Turkeys. Excuse me. 100 frozen turkeys, and so on the 16th they're going to be here, and it's going to be a first come, first served type activity. So the best way to get the details on that is to take a look at our city website or our Facebook site. They'll have that information up there, and so they'll be on the 16th, the Friday. I think it's at 10 a.m. We'll have a turkey madhouse giveaway. I don't know. Maybe we'll have firefighters throw frozen turkeys off the front steps of City Hall, which would be funny unless it hit a small little kid or knocked over a little old lady, and that would be a bad thing. So that would increase our workers' comp claims probably, wouldn't it? So anyways, in all seriousness, we're going to have that on the 16th. I think it's a good idea. The idea, how you pass out something like that in a fair way. I don't know if there's a perfect way to do that, but our hope is that needy families will show up in their Teslas or their Cadillacs and get and get 2 or 3 turkeys while they can. No, seriously, it'll be first come, first serve, and we're excited about it. And we have an alternative plan. If, for instance, we don't have 100 people show up on the 16th, we've got a backup plan to make sure that they get through the charitable groups in the community and make sure they get used in the right places and don't end up on the O'Leary family Thanksgiving table. So anyways, we encourage you to come out on the 16th and be part of that. And we really are appreciative of the organization that helps us manage our workers' comp claim for their generous support of our community. So did want to mention that. And it's Thanksgiving's a happy time, and if we can't have a joke about people being hit with frozen turkeys, I suppose it's time for me to give it up. So, speaking of giving it up, I suppose that's probably all we got tonight. People here at City Hall are smiling, some are laughing, and some are freaking out. So I better stop while I'm ahead. If there's not anything else, we'll see. No, there isn't?
Not a question, just a quick compliment from Tom. He says the alleys uptown are nice, which is great, just in time for Small Business Saturday.
Yeah, that's the second. Thank him. Thanks to Tom. The other person I want to mention who sent me a thanks a couple weeks ago is Father Paul Farbach over at St. Joe's and Holy Trinity sent me a nice note, and all the alleys in and around the church and school facility over there were in atrocious shape, and as it turned out, that while those improvements won't last as long as the pyramids, they'll be a solid improvement for several years, and I think it's as much activity as they get in all types of uses. Was a good end of the year kind of expenditure. We do realize that, and have been working on some of the grates. We've had to replace those, and there's some low spots that we've had to work on. Then we're also one or two spots that are retaining water a little bit, and we've got a plan to get that working a little bit better so that we don't end up with ice skating rinks where we had where we had standing water in the alleys before paving. So we're going to try to take care of that so we don't have slippery, icy conditions behind some of the businesses that utilize the parking lots in behind Hardingway. So anyway, sorry about the next few days. People bear with us on Portland Way South. That traffic signal and that temporary traffic slowdown is necessary to get the pavement repaired out there. They were literally in front of my house all day today. Gave me a reason not to leave the house until I came up here. But anyways, it seems to me from literally watching it today quite a bit that during the busy times the traffic's queuing, but most of it is clearing through one signal. So again, thank you for the patience, and we have about 2 or 3 more working days on that, and certainly we'll have those improvements done before the end of the month. So bear with us, and until next week, and if you can come up and interested in the 2019 budget, come up to City Council tomorrow and ask some questions and get yourself informed about where we're heading in terms of the city's financial condition. With that, I'll say goodnight if there's no more questions, and look forward to seeing and hearing from you in the near future. Thanks. Good night.